Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Andrew and so excited today to have on our channel in our amazing series of Breaking into Cyber, probably a Legends episode, as Jason himself is not breaking into cyber, but helping those break into cyber. And we have none other than Jason Dion from Dion Training and also Akylade Training. So Jason, so glad to have you on the channel, and I'm going to pass it to you for a quick introduction.
Yeah, thanks for having me here. My name is Jason Dion. I am the founder and lead instructor of Dion Training. Where you can find us at diontraining.com. Most of you probably know us if you have taken your Security Plus. Generally, it's us and Professor Messer and Mike Myers from Total Seminars. We're kind of the three big ones that teach a lot of the CompTIA stuff. So I teach a lot of CompTIA, teach probably more CompTIA students than anybody else in the world. We've been number one for several years now, and CompTIA's number one partner for 2 of the last 3 years, I think it was. So that's always been really a big driver for us, is helping people break into cyber and getting the skills they need and the certifications they need. At Akylade, I'm a co-founder at Akylade, and right now I'm the chief product officer. We focus on making the next generation of certifications. So certifications that go beyond just knowledge-based information and really take you and put you into the scenario and into the workplace, so that when you pass those certifications, employers know you can do that job, as opposed to just you can speak about that job. Because we've all hired the Security Plus person, and it's a good foundational exam, but put them in front of a keyboard and they can't do anything, right? Because they know stuff, but they don't know how to do stuff. And that's kind of the difference with what we do at Akylade, and what we really focus on is more of that hands-on and deep thought type work. So that's a little bit about me, and glad to be here and help out wherever I can.
No, thanks, Jason. It's funny. One of my folks I've had on the channel too, she's like, yeah, certifications are great, but you're never going to go onto a pen test or like a hands-on piece of it where it's like, okay, to get to this next, like, you got to get through the firewall. Is it A? Is it B? Like, no, you have to do it. You have to put the fingers on keys and actually get into the rhyme and reason of what we're doing in cybersecurity. So, no, that's fantastic. So exciting. And let's go ahead and kick off with our first question we ask everyone that comes on the channel. So back in the days of young elementary school, our teachers, our parents, our grandparents ask us, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? And we give the answer of doctors, lawyers, space astronauts with veterinarian background with a minor in psychology. But obviously we got into cybersecurity and we're pretty darn good at it. So Jason, if you will, what made you, or how did you break into cyber?
Going back to, elementary school, I've always been interested in computers. I think I'm a little bit older than you. I'm 45. And so I was born in, early 80s. And I was fortunate enough that my dad was a lawyer. So came from, a good middle-class family, and we actually had a computer at home. And so even at, 5 years old, I was able to start touching and working with computers. But back then, if you wanted to do anything with computers, you really had to learn how to do even some basic coding, because there was no tape drive. There was no like floppy disk drive even, right? Or hard drives of these things. I remember ours, we had this like audio cassette tape, right? And you'd put in the Mickey Mouse game you wanted to play, the Mickey Mouse ABCs, and you had to type a command on the keyboard and then get ready to hit play as you're hitting enter, so it can read the audio tape to load the program onto the computer. Like, that was kind of computers I was learning. And I was like just enamored with computers. And, by the time I was 12 years old, I programmed in 10 different languages. By the time I graduated high school, I had 15 languages, and I'm like, I'm going to be a computer science person. And I love computers and just did a lot around it. So I kind of always been around computers, always doing stuff. I had my first business in, last year of high school. I started a business doing computer repair and going to people's houses and helping them fix their computer and set up their printers, because back then it wasn't as easy to just plug in USB. You had to actually set the interrupts and use the parallel ports. And like, I'd have people who'd pay me, $25 or $50 an hour to come and just teach them, like, how do I get online? Because back then AOL was setting out those disks, and a lot of people were like, I hear about this internet thing, I need to get on it, right? So I've just always had that kind of training thing, and worked my way through that. And then as I became a young adult, and I was working in and around the military for 20 years, and did a couple of things early on, and then switched back to computers, because that's always kind of where I end up back in. And spent 15 years doing large scale military stuff all over the world. Ran the world's largest intranet, which is Navy Marine Corps Internet, which supports 7 continents and 40 plus countries. I was in charge of the overseas net, which is called OneNet for the Middle East, and then later on in my career for all of Europe. So just got to do a lot of really cool stuff from the ITSM or service management side. And then I did a lot of the cybersecurity stuff because it just kind of came naturally to me. And part of that was they said, hey, you have to go get your Security Plus. And so back in 2007, I got my Security Plus. I was already working in cybersecurity at the time, but I had to get it for the job. And that kind of really brought me into that whole certification space where I was trying to help other people get their certifications and then just kind of snowball from there.
No, amazing background, Jason. And thank you for your service, of course, being a prior vet as well and a current vet. I do appreciate your service and what you had to do. And yeah, I know that's not hard, but I think the benefits of, and I always tell people, like, I'm not a recruiter. I don't recruit for the military. However, the military can be a great segue for a lot of folks to get into some skills, especially like if you want to be like a sysadmin or get into like IT. It's like, there's only in the military you can be 18 or 20 years old and like be like, oh no, I'm a senior sysadmin. You're 19. That's who you are. Yeah, that's what I do. And it's just because that's the environment we live in for the military. So, but yeah, no, amazing. And well, actually leads into our next question actually perfectly as we're going to get to your teaching impact. But one thing that folks are always having issues with right now is the chicken before the egg. Is Certs education experience, which one's the best and why? How do you need which one to kind of move into a good role? So what are your thoughts on those three? And is there any particular order you put those and why?
Yeah, I think it really depends on the job and who your potential employer is, right? Because, and I could tell you all day long, I think that, certs are the most important, or education is the most important, or experiences, but it's really what that hiring manager thinks, right? I know some hiring managers who go experience above all else. I'll only hire somebody who has at least 5 years of experience. Mm-hmm. Well, you'll never break into cyber that way. I'm sorry, right? Those are the guys and gals who are literally fighting for the, 10 or 20% of candidates. And I know a lot of people who have 2 jobs because there's so much demand for cyber, and yet brand new folks can't even get in, right? And break down the door. And that's because that's when they're putting that experience as paramount. When I choose between education and certification, they serve vastly different purposes, right?
Yes.
And most people, when they say education, they're thinking college degree, but I'll expand it. I think education is all the self-training you do. It's books, it's videos, it's YouTube, it's keeping up to date with the latest stuff, right? Because if you think that, cyber is a job where you can go and get your 4-year degree and get your, bachelor's in cybersecurity or bachelor's of IT with specialization in security, and then go into a job and you never got to learn again, you're vastly wrong.
Yeah, right? not this field.
Constantly learning. There's new stuff all the time, right? I mean, how often are you, going to a new class or reading a new book or listening to a podcast, right? Just to learn something about this stuff, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and so I'll preface my answer with this. I don't kind of get going long-winded around, but a lot of people ask me this question, and I think it's important to realize. Dion Training, we are a certification training business, right? Akylade, we make certification exams. So I obviously have a bent towards certifications, but I was also a college professor for a decade. And so I have a bent towards education as well. I will tell you, education alone is not going to do it, because by the time you get it in college, it's already expired. Yeah. The procurement cycle for textbooks and course materials is about 12 to 18 months. And so if you think about that, and something like AI, that's only been around for 2.5 years publicly with ChatGPT, it's just now getting into the textbooks. It's just now getting into the certification exams. I see the same problem with a lot of certification exam companies. CompTIA didn't even mention AI until the latest A+ came out earlier this year, right?
Yeah.
I just looked at the new objectives for Security Plus version 8 that's coming out next year, and there's an entire objective on AI finally. But it took them 3-4 years into AI being out before they did it, because there's that 3-year refresh cycle and they hold to it. Yeah. Like, they don't care if they're talking about, we're just going to wait 3 years. So, all that to say, all 3 are important, right? But in different ways. I find for currency, certifications tend to be better than education. Yeah. Or impact, education can be a lot. What I found from most hiring managers is that the education level will determine pay band. Mm-hmm. The certification will determine if you even get an interview, because it's kind of the key, especially with the applicant tracking systems these days. If it says required Security Plus, you got to have it. If you don't have it, you're not going to get interviewed, right? It's that simple. But if they say, recommended, then maybe it's okay or not to have it. But generally, I find these certifications give you a good baseline. The education gives you, it proves that you can stick with something for 4 long years and get the result you want. So employers like that too.
I have a follow-up question for this. So first off, I think you're spot on the money, because like I've talked to hiring managers too on the channel, and like the thing I always kind of reiterate too is like you have to have 2 of the 3 to come to the table, I think. Because if you have education and experience, well, sometimes they can not, okay, we don't have to worry about certs. unless there's like a 8570 or some specific compliance gone to a network. You could also argue, okay, well, I have certifications and experience, but I don't have the education. Okay, well, if you have the experience and certifications, okay, well, we can bypass. It's like in the military.
People get hired that way. It's just that they might get a lower pay, man.
Yes, it's like in the military. I always joke like there's always an exception to policy to everything, and that can kind of be the same thing when it comes to hiring managers. Where it's like, one, if you can relate and get in strong networking skills, help. But if you can meet a goal or a task and like, okay, well, you don't have education, like you have an associate's degree, we usually require a bachelor's, but you hold all these certifications and you've been doing this job for X amount of years, like we can bypass that, or we can work toward that as we bring you on to get your degree. A second question I have to kind of follow up on that is, being someone that's probably looked at many resumes, what is a strong, and this is I know going to be a broad question, so we can tailor it as necessary, but when you're looking at a resume, what are maybe like the top 3 things you look for immediately to like maybe have a strong candidate stand out?
Yeah, when it comes to the resumes, biggest thing is be brief, be beautiful, and be gone, right? So
I like that.
Your resume should not be more than 2 pages, right? If I can't hold it on a single sheet of paper, front and back, I'm not going to read it. The dirty secret is that most hiring managers are reviewing a resume in 6 to 60 seconds, right? So like less than a minute. And some of them were only looking at it for 6 seconds. I mean, that's really, really short. And so it has to be bulleted. I need to be able to scan it. I need to be able to see what you want me to see very, very quickly. And usually for me, I'm looking at the first part, which is, I'm Jason, I'm looking for this type of a job, and I want to make this kind of an impact. Then I'm looking really quickly. What are your previous jobs? What are the titles of them? What are some of the key responsibilities? And if that links to my job, that's going to speak to me, right?
Yeah.
Because that's the other thing is a lot of people use the same resume across every job they apply for.
Yeah.
And you really want to tailor the resume to the job you're applying for. I personally have 4 different resumes. If I'm teaching, if I'm applying for a security position or an ITSM position or a project manager position or a teacher position, right? I have 4 different resumes that speak to those 4 different things, even though I've done the same jobs in those 4 places, right? It's just which bent am I looking at it with? And being a former military guy, you understand this because, when you go and have this job, it's not just this job that they were told you, it's all this other stuff. And so, if you want to talk about all the project management you've done as a CPT lead, for example, you can go and talk about your budgets and your people and the hours you've done and all these skills that are completely great for project manager, right? Mm-hmm. Or if you're talking about the cyber stuff, you might be focused on more of your hands-on work you've done in that role and how technical you are, right? And so having those different resumes really helps it out, but keep it very brief. If they ask for certifications, you should have a certification, right?
Yeah.
Certifications are not that hard to get. So if somebody's like, you must have a Security Plus, you could do nothing else for the next week and get your Security Plus. It's not really that hard, right?
Yep.
I have a long track history of helping students get these certifications, and the longest it should take you is 2 months, and that's really, really slow. That's like an hour a day of studying. But if you do 4 hours a day, 30 days, you do 4 hours a day, it's going to be 2 weeks. If you do 8 hours a day, it's a week, right? It doesn't take that long. You can knock that out and get that done, add that to the resume. One thing I don't like is when people try to pretend like they have a certification that they don't. I saw this once. I was hiring for a job and it was a DoD 8570 required job. And this was a level 3 management position. It required CISSP. So HR, we said, hey, we got to have a CISSP for this. I'm not even interviewing people who don't have it, right? HR comes back. They got thousands of resumes. They give me 83. Out of the 83, there were 3 who had CISSP.
The others have pending.
Things like went to a boot camp, planning to take my CISSP in 2 months. Like, you're wasting my time, right?
Yeah.
And so literally the 3 people who got interviewed are the 3 who had CISSP, and then we picked among those. So
nice.
Certification can be critical, and if you don't have it, it literally will cost you the job, because we were not looking at anybody who did not have a CISSP in this case, because that was what we needed for that particular role. So I hear a lot of people go, I've got the experience, I don't need certifications. Well, maybe, but in today's world, so much of the job market is done through computers and AI and applicant tracking systems. And so if it says you need a CISSP, you better have a CISSP. If it says you have a Security Plus, you better have a Security Plus.
No, 100%. And it's so funny, Jason. Like, it's just like, there's so many isms. Like, it's just like the military aspect of it too. Like, it's just like you said, like going into one mission or task, it's like, oh, this is what I'm doing. Oh no, here's the other 5 hats you're also going to do and wear while you start to juggle this on top of the team. I'm like, cool. Okay. That's awesome. So no, that just made me laugh. That's funny. Next question for you actually bleeds into perfect as you were just mentioning. So like obviously teaching and helping folks get their certifications, 100% agree with you. When I do my mentorship and folks don't have a Security Plus, I usually do, depending on their commitment of how much time they have, 30 to 45 days roughly. And by the 45th day, we should be looking to schedule that Security Plus exam like that week or the following week. So it's totally nail on the head. I think that's 100% right. But for your training programs that have helped countless people break into cybersecurity, and now with Akylade, as you're expanding that mission to create certifications, what's been your favorite part about teaching and seeing the impact firsthand?
Yeah, for me, it's the outcome in the person's life. I mean, Security Plus is cool. I could teach you some cool cybersecurity stuff and teach you how to do some Wi-Fi hacking and some basics in the course, and that's always fun. But, at the end of the day, what really energizes me is when I hear back from those students that they were able to go get a job and they went from being, a janitor or working at McDonald's, serving hamburgers to being able to get into cybersecurity and double or triple their salary because now they're in a real career field, right?
Yeah.
You know, you're in the cyber world as well, and you know how quickly like you can go from your entry level job of 60 or 70 to making over 100 a year within 2 to 3 years usually, right?
Yeah.
Because of the skill set that we have, and I know lots of people who are making multiple six figures depending on their skill level. So these guys who have guys and gals who have 15, 20, 25 years, they're making $250,000 a year or more sometimes. And so getting people onto that path and out of a dead end job and into a career, that's what like really excites me.
Yeah. Just this year, I opened up my door to mentorship and talking to folks across everywhere. I mean, I've talked to folks in Ireland, India, Nigeria, the US. And it's so wild because it's just like just answering that LinkedIn message and then setting up like a Google Meets call. And it's like, oh my gosh, like you're actually real. You're able to talk to me for like 15, 30 minutes. I'm like, yeah, of course. Like ask me whatever you want. And I asked him too, like, is there anything else I can do to help you? He's like, dude, this 30 minutes has been fantastic just to pick your brain. And that's one thing too, where I see what Jason, with what you're doing with your platforms and training as well. And just trying to get back to this community, like it's so impactful to help folks just have that little piece of like success of like, they give you the testimonial to reach out like, hey, after taking this class or after getting the talk with you, I really got into my Security Plus and I passed it. Thank you so much. And I think that's the one thing too that I really love about this community is a lot of us aren't gatekeepers. We really want to see folks just be successful, and we want to see folks grow. Like I'm the friend in my friend group that wants to see all my friends all level up with me when I'm progressing. I want to see my friends progress with me. And yeah, so I just love that that's a lot of the mission that a lot of us in this community are seeing and doing. So I think that's fantastic. But Jason, another question I have for you, and this is kind of more a fun one. So when you're not doing cyber, when you're not doing all the stuff with Jason Dion or working on Akylade, what do you do for fun? What do you do to unplug? What are you doing to kind of relax and kind of recharge?
So my fiance would tell you that I'm a theme park nerd. I like the
Okay.
So I live in Orlando, so theme park capital of the world, right? So just last night I went over to Animal Kingdom for the afternoon, went on a couple rides, so got some dinner, and then came home, right? So I do that quite a bit. I'm usually at like a Disney park or a Universal park, and just in this area we've got 8 or 9 theme parks. So we got quite a glut of them.
Oh, that's so cool, man. Yeah, we were just in Disney World March, I think, or April. We did a family trip. My brother and them are they're park or member holders. So we did like me and some of my older brothers and all the nephews and kids. We all went there, big family trip and everything. It's so much fun. That was our second time at Disney World. We're in Arizona, so we go to Disneyland and California Adventure like probably once or twice a year because it's like a 6-hour drive for us. So. And my wife never been to Disney in the 7 years we were married. And then I started taking her our first year. She's like, we need to come every year. I'm like, I did it to myself. Did it to myself.
So if fiance is the same way before me, she's like, she had gone to Disneyland in California and she went to Universal in California, one time each, and then, she started dating me and, I go all the time. Like I'm usually there at least, once or twice a month. Cause like literally Universal is 15 minutes up the road and Disney's for 20 up the road. So it's super close. It's one of those things like you go for 2 hours, you get some dinner, you go home, you watch some fireworks. So yeah. And, but yeah, now she's like, oh yeah, I don't want to leave Orlando. Or Orlando's great to go to the theme parks.
So out of all do you have a favorite like top 3? I don't know, unless you can narrow it down to a top 1. What's your favorite one or favorite park?
As far as parks, the new Epic Universe is gorgeous. So there's opening it here, and it's pretty amazing. The way they did it with the center and the portals is really cool. As far as like top rides, my favorite ride in the world is the Guardians of the Galaxy coaster at Epcot.
Yeah.
Fantastic ride. Great roller coaster, super fun, not too scary. So it hits all the check mark for me.
Yeah, my 5-year-old was just tall enough this year to ride it, and we went on it like 3 times in a row. She's like, "This is the best ride ever." So yeah, it's so fun.
Oh yeah, super fun.
Oh man. Well, Jason, one more question I have for you before we kick it off with the last question of the call. So when it comes into, as we mentioned, like cybersecurity is a continuous learning field. As you mentioned, like if you think you're just going to go to school, get a master's degree, get your Sec Plus, and go sit in a job and only do that one button push or kind of like task, you have another thing coming because cybersecurity is definitely a continuous learning kind of field we live in. What are some ways that you stay up to date with a lot of the changes or things that are coming down the pipeline as we see cyber progressing? Obviously, we've mentioned AI. I myself am a strong believer that I think AI is going to be a benefactor for our tier ones. There's obviously the scare that cyber is going to take over tier one jobs. There's some pieces of that I think is true, but however, on all the organizations I've worked at the state, financial institutes, and the federal side, I've yet to see how AI is going to take over the full job, just of compliance aspects, still seeing hallucinations. Maybe you can just give a kind of like a quick high level thought on that, or.
Yeah, certainly. So as far as AI, I'll start with that and then we'll talk about, how I continue education. I see AI as really, really useful and a force multiplier. I use it a lot in my organizations. There is nothing I would trust AI to do 100% without human oversight, right? So I have a book called Mastering AI Security, and in this we talk about, the most effective organizations are the ones that use AI. One of my old business partners likes to call it his overeager intern. He's like, yep, this is like that, that college intern. He's there, he wants to help, but sometimes he just doesn't get it, right? And so if you're using AI coding, it'll be like, oh, there's a bug in this code. You know what? I'll just comment out this whole section. That'll solve the bug. Well, yeah, but it also deletes the functionality you were trying to achieve, right? So sometimes you just gotta be there, be like, no, get back in your lane. And I think that's what you'll see with AI from an IDS, IPS perspective, and use in a SOC in tier one, right? It's gonna be there to do some initial classification. It'll clearly, we've already done this with machine learning, which is the first generation of AI, where we go, okay, this is clearly good, this is clearly bad, this is the stuff we're not sure of. Well, I think now that we have the stuff we're not sure of, we would run that through AI, and AI would then be able to make a determination, okay, out of this, half that was undetermined, maybe now we know that 90% of it was good or bad, and there's only 10%. And that 10%, we're going to show it to you. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So one of my instructors at Dion Training, he just put out a course. It was basically AI for SOC analysts, right? And like, how can you use these tools to help you in your analysis, to help you do reverse malware engineering and all those other kind of things? Because it's got so much capability that it really can't help, as long as we learn, right? And then this goes back to your question on learning. For me, I find that YouTube is really, really good because it is so darn timely. Stuff can happen today, and within hours, people have YouTube videos on it, right? So I find there's some really good stuff that way. Anything written by Bruce Schneider, he's always done a great job on all the technical, really in-depth stuff. Kara Swisher, she's another journalist that does a really good job on covering a lot of in-depth, more of the business side of the tech world. But I'm constantly reading this stuff and listening to podcasts and YouTube videos and things like that to stay current. Now, as a certification instructor, it's not that hard to stay current because they only change test every 3 years generally, right?
Yeah.
So that is more of a longer thing. And that's why we talk about like educating yourself is really important, because if I just waited for the next Security Plus, by the time Security Plus comes out, it's been 3 years and it's an 18-month development cycle. So really the stuff I'm seeing, even when it brand new just comes out, it's 18 months old already. And in our world, 18 months is forever.
It's a long time.
AI was 18 months ago versus where it is today. It's just a completely different world. So constantly learning that kind of stuff, taking courses from others, because I can't know everything, but I want to keep learning,
No, awesome. Well, Jason, huge thank you as well for coming on the channel. And as I tell everyone that comes on the channel, is a huge thank you. I'd love to send you some Ginger Hacker swag. I'll make sure I send you that link and stuff where you can pick out a cool shirt or an item as a thank you for let me steal some of your time away from your day to jump on the channel and kind of just share your story and share your insight. And last but not least, the final question I ask everybody before signing off is, for someone just starting their journey or trying to get into this field, what's your advice for someone trying to break into cybersecurity?
Yeah, the number one thing is networking and mentorship, right? If you can find somebody who can become your advocate, that will help you. Because it is really, really hard to break in, right? Because when we talk about experience, certifications, education, I will tell you 90% of hiring managers, they want experience first and foremost. And if you have no experience, it's going to be really hard to get somebody to take a chance on you. And then it becomes, well, how do I get experience? Nobody will hire me, right? And you get that whole catch-22.
Yeah.
But if you have a mentor, they might be able to open the door for you. If you've got somebody who can be like, I'm not hiring, but, I know the ginger hacker and he's got a job opening and you should go talk to him, right? And so a lot of times they can just make an introduction that gets you out of that 1,000-person pile into the at least, 20 that the hiring manager will actually read, to the 5 that'll actually get interviewed, to the one who will actually get hired. It's not guaranteed you're going to get to be that one, but at least we can get you down to the 20 instead of the 2,000, right? And so that really does help. Go to conferences, make friends in the community, be involved, volunteer as you need to, until you can get that paid work. Because once you get that, after that first job, it's just so much easier. You can jump around from job to job and move very quickly, but getting that first one is always the hardest.
Yes, 100%. Jason, this was such a great conversation and talk. Everyone, thank you so much for sticking around for the video. Please like, subscribe, comment below on what your favorite part of this was. And as a reminder, in December, we are doing our silent auction for the Ginger Hacker Initiative. So make sure you stay tuned, because come December, and as we get closer to December, we'll be dropping out some of the amazing, cool prizes we should be seeing within our silent auction. But Jason, thank you again so much for coming on the channel, and everyone that's been watching, we'll see you on the next video.